Hi, welcome to episode 2 of the Null Electronics podcast. Thank you so much for coming back and joining me again. And if you're a new listener, I'm stoked to have you here with me. Please stick around for the future. Amazingly, today I got to have a chat with someone from one of my favorite bands as a kid. Growing up here in Australia, they were a huge deal in the late 90s. I got to talk today to Quan from Regurgitator. Now, if you're not from Australia or you're not aware of that band, Regurgitator were a huge deal in the late 90s. They started off in Brisbane as a three-piece, sort of making interesting punk-ish music or punk-adjacent music, quite loud, but it always had an experimental and interesting element to it. The band really evolved over each of their albums. By the time they got to their second album, Unit, which went triple platinum, they had infused all kinds of synthetic sounds, synthesizers, drum machines, fusing hip-hop lyrics, hip-hop motifs, full-out 80s electronic synth pop songs, and they really were a very unique band on the Australian landscape back in 1997. They went on to release a number of amazing records after that. I got to sit down with Quan today. Well, sit down. I mean, I got to talk to him over a video call, but you know what, tomato. And we got to talk about those first 4 or 5 albums and what it was like sort of signing to a major label, what it was like to lose their drummer who parted with the band after their third, I think it is, album. We get a little bit nerdy and talk a little bit about some of the production elements. We talk about the industry side of things a little bit. We really just go deep, and I did have to ask about a certain synthesizer here and there, so I apologize for that. Look, I hope you enjoy the chat. It was really, really enjoyable for me. And stick around because there's going to be plenty more interviews, I hope. Let's see. Without further ado, let's listen to my chat with Quan from Regurgitator. I hope you enjoy. Take care. Bye. Hi, I'm here with Quan from the legendary Australian band Regurgitator. It's so good to have you here, Quan. I guess I wanted to kick things off first by just talking about the tour that you've got running from February through to April this year. It's called the Jukebox and Shows, which I'm guessing is a reference to the title of your debut album. Is that correct?
I think so. I would think so.
You would think so. You're not sure. Someone else came up with that? From
the deep recesses of our manager's mind, yes.
Yeah,
I'm sure that's what he was going for.
And you're playing. It's billed as a retrospective of singles. How closely will we be following that directive at the shows?
Well, we couldn't follow it completely because there's 54, I think, or 53 singles over the 30 years that we've been going for. So there's no way we could play that amount of singles without killing ourselves and the people that we're playing to. So I think it's culled down to about 33, 34 songs.
But they are all singles.
They're all singles, except maybe one if we feel like playing it, just because it's a fun party tune. But yeah, they're all singles. Can
I ask what that is?
Sometimes we play "I Will Lick Your Arsehole," but that's just for funsies.
Yeah, sick, cool.
That was never a single, apparently,
as far as you can remember.
Yeah, but the show is like an hour and 55, hour and 52. Yeah. It's really long.
Yeah, that is pretty long. You started this tour off last year, towards the end of last year. How have the shows been so far?
Surprisingly great. I mean, not surprisingly. I mean, you know, we like playing live. We were a little bit hesitant or a little bit apprehensive about the length of the show. Right. And we tried doing like a costume change in the middle, and we just felt like it just wrecked the flow too much. So we just power through it, essentially. So it's 34 songs, one up the other pretty much. And it runs like an hour and 52, 53. And it's a wild ride. Like, it's been really fun.
Cool. Now, look, I think of interviews I've seen with artists who have humongous hits over the years, right? And every now and then an interviewer is able to get out of that artist, what are the songs that you're fucking sick of playing? Quan, is there anything that I can pull out of you? Is there anything on this list that you kind of like, do I really have to do that one again?
Yeah, I don't like playing my ego because it was never really a song we played a lot before, and it's kind of like a little bit gimmicky for my liking. Like it's a little clown music for my tastes.
Right. Okay.
I might actually, my manager really egged me on to play it.
Okay.
And I don't know if anyone actually is enjoying it. He insists that it's getting a good reaction, whatever. I still don't like playing it on stage because there's a lot of words. It's a bit silly. It's a very clowny sounding to me, like circusy.
Yes.
But sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I've opted out of it on a few occasions just because I'm like, I cannot fucking do this. It's too embarrassing. I don't want to do it.
That's what it is though. It isn't the technical like, oh, this one's annoying or this is too boring or lyrically
well, in my opinion, I don't think it's a wonderful song, but it has its moments, and I think the recording's quite catchy. I think he insists on doing it because it was one of the more downloaded songs or the more like played songs on streaming platforms. And I think he's right to a certain degree. It's certainly not the biggest, but it's certainly up there.
Do you see a response from the audience that sort of correlates with that?
No, not really. Not that I can see.
Time to part with your manager of 30 years by the sounds of things.
He loves it.
Yeah.
So we're basically just doing it for him, which we often do. Stuff like I think he informed us that he'd been to see us. He's been at over 900 shows he's come to.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah. So, I mean, the dedication he shows to this band is insane. So I kind of feel like I'm obliged to a certain degree.
That totally makes sense to me. I think that's fair. Yeah. Now, look, I want to get into your history, if that's okay.
Yeah, I go for it.
There's a lot that I want to talk about, actually, so I'll try and smash through it. In the early 90s when you guys formed, and you suddenly found yourself signing to a major label, how did that feel for you? And what was the environment like in the band? Like, do you have good memories of that? Do you have conflicting memories of that? I mean, I think it's pretty clear that you talk a lot about consumerism and label issues.
I do remember at the time signing. There's a great Polaroid photo of me actually with the pen in my hand going, what am I doing? Like, I look like I felt. I remember the feeling.
Yeah.
The dynamic in the band was very, very, there was conflict there existing already.
This is prior to the first EP, or had the EP was already out and then you signed? Is that right?
I believe so. I believe the first EP was already out, but then they re-released it under Warner Brothers.
Okay.
Which was a misnomer because it wasn't ever really properly released under Warner Brothers. Some of the early ones had the logo on it, where it's actually not true. It was always under East West in Australia, I think, or Warner Australia. So yeah, we were signed within 6 months of being together as a band. Martin was a very, very, we're very disparate characters. Martin he'd been playing in punk bands since he was 15 or 14 or something like that in LA. His mother had just sent him over when he was 15. Said, go on, off you go, see the world. So he had a very kind of practical sense of what he wanted to do with his career. Mm-hmm. He was very practical. This is what he wanted to do. This was like, well, this is what we do it for. We do it to become a big band, sign to a major label and do the thing. Ben was also a very ambitious musician as well, but he was sort of in between. He was the connective guy. So he had the relationship with the A&R guy, and he had shown a demo of his other band to him. Also, I happened to have recorded the guys at the SAE school that I was studying at, and he had that demo as well, and the A&R guy preferred that. So he had a very awkward conversation that he had to have with his other band to say that, well, actually, I've just sold us out. And then it was me I had a very kind of more kind of anti-corporate vibe about me, probably from my kind of middle-class socialist upbringing from my father's side. I'd just been to a UN conference in South America, and I kind of I'd found out how the world actually works. It was frightening as hell. And so I had that whole groundswell behind me, that feeling of like political unease and unsettledness about the whole process, and unsure about it, but willing to go along with the ride. And, meeting record company people is like meeting people you have nothing in common with, or you have to work with somehow. But they're salesmen, essentially. Our A&R guy, he genuinely had a love for the music, and he was behind us. He was willing to like protect us to a certain degree and fight for whatever we wanted. And there was a little bit of pushback at the time. They wanted to change, the guys above him wanted to change some of the names of the songs, like Sucked a Lot of Cock, stuff like that. They wanted to kind of make it a little bit less gritty, perhaps. And we were just like, no, you deal with it. We're not on this unless we do it our way. So yeah, there was all that feeling wrapped up in. And our manager, also he's like hard left, super socialist kind of guy. Mm-hmm. Really, him and Martin were at the most odds with each other. And he was fighting with Martin over control of where the band was going and what we were doing with Warner as well. And it was a very was a difficult dynamic from time for sure.
But like, what would the alternative have been for you? I mean, I think about this often. Like, I work a job, right, for a corporate, for a commercial entity, and I don't particularly like it, but I need to pay my rent, right? Like,
Absolutely.
would you have ended up in perhaps working for someone you like less or sort of less aligned with had you not signed with Warner?
You can't say, right? It's all like, well, maybe. Who knows? Who knows what would have happened? We wouldn't have been as big a band, perhaps, or perhaps we would have found a channel. You know, you look at bands like Rage Against the Machine and go, okay, there's a certain amount of hypocrisy they have to deal with because they're a very right-on, leftist thinking band, but they're signed to Sony. Then you look at bands like Fugazi, and they've never signed out, they've never had merch, they've done these shows, and they've been successful. There's definitely alternative ways to go about things. And so you have to make those decisions, and you're making them when you're young and you're naive and you're innocent and you're inexperienced. So you have to make those choices at that moment because these opportunities arrive and you've got to make choices quickly. And you're dealing with a whole other bunch of people around you that all have conflicting ideas about what they want to do with the entity and with their lives. So it's complicated. Yeah. Who knows what would have happened if we'd remained independent, which we are now. We've been independent for, I don't know, the last, 7 records.
Right.
And we managed to survive. We played for 30 years. We're still getting the same amount of people that we get to shows basically since almost our peak. Not quite, obviously, but we're still playing healthily places. We're dealing with people on an honest level where we're open about it. We have a democratic system in place for the band. And so what could really be better, really? We're very fortunate that we had that initial success and that initial kind of popularity. And a large proportion of that is probably due to the fact that we were on a major level and they could push us to that level. Whether it was real, I don't know. You know, would we have sold triple platinum of that unit record? No, I don't think so.
That's interesting. It does actually, it brings me to two questions that you kind of touched on there. I kind of marvel sometimes at the unintended effects of business people, or you were talking about how you're quite different to the people that were operating at the record label. How they sometimes do get their fingers into the actual art sometimes. And sometimes that ends up being some of my favorite music, the stuff that's been fucked up, because it kind of is like true outsider art. You've got business people making decisions about the art.
Very interesting way of looking at it.
I thought about this a lot. One of my favorite records.
Can you give me examples of that?
I can. I've just been. Do you know the song Spaceman by Babylon Zoo?
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
So there's this big long-winded story about how it got sped up for a Levi's ad commercial, and it went hugely popular. And then the record label convinced the guy to bookend the original song, which was much slower and grungier, with the remix part. And when I listen to that out of context, it's kind of this really, really sick sort of odd start and finish to a song. Another one is I love the Chris Cornell album where he worked with Timbaland. The most insane, absurd pop album in the world.
Yeah,
I love that record.
I tried to listen to it, I think, and I just couldn't get it. I did not get it. But that's the thing about music, right? It's very much a personal thing. Like
that's right. And sorry. So to get back to you, the question is, did that ever happen for you guys? Did you ever have something where someone else's finger got like cut off in the process of you guys trying to get your art made?
Well, I think the interesting thing is when you're in a relationship with a big record company, they tend to be quite open to your ideas as long as you're selling records. So it is an economic thing. When the graph starts to go like this, they go, okay, that's not right. We're in a capitalist situation here. It should always be like this. There's no room for this. You cannot do that. You certainly can't do that. As soon as that happens, they start coming into the studio and going, hey, can we make this chorus a little bit slicker? And it did happen. And the one instance that it happened was with Fat Cop, where a very green, very annoying A&R person who was not our original guy, because you lose your key man, okay? You don't have that person in the record company anymore. Things really turn south because they've got their own egos and their own batch of bands that they want to make big. So they just come in and just like a bulldozer. It's a completely different relationship that's suddenly set up. You have no say over it. So when that starts to happen, things like that will occur. And maybe in very rare occurrences, it actually does make a better piece of art. And like we just discussed, the way we just touched on, art is very much a personal,
of course,
interpretation, whether you enjoy it or not, and knowing the history of it and how that affects the way you listen to it. There's a lot of variables, right? But
totally.
Ben hates that song now because of what happened to him. So it affected his creative process and affected his relationship to his art.
What did happen?
So he came in and he was like, you need to change the chorus to make it like this. Can you sing a chorus? Because originally that song did not have a chorus that was sung. And Ben followed his lead.
It was just the guitar, no vocal whatsoever in that.
I believe so.
Right.
You'd have to ask him exactly what he had in mind. I can't remember exactly, but I know it was different, and I know that there was pressure from this particular A&R person to do something different to it. Now, maybe it did make it a better song and gave it its popularity that it has today. People respond to it, and it is a big song in our set list. So you could argue that it is a better song, but the point is that it soured the relationship that Ben had, the original creator, with this piece of art. And he still clings to that feeling now after all these years.
So had I asked him the question about which song he doesn't want to play, it'd be Fat Cop.
Definitely he's gone through stages where he hated playing it. Now I think he enjoys it because we feed off the audience. Once again, you'd have to ask him.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great. That's a great record, Eduardo. Quite I would say that was a sharp turn for you guys. Songs like Hullabaloo and Come On are huge favorites of mine.
Really?
What was that a response to? Like, what were you listening to at the time that made you go in that direction?
You know, it's strange because we went and did that record with Andy Gill in the centre of London in his Charing Cross apartment. He's now no longer with us, unfortunately. I think he may have actually died of COVID.
Wow.
One of the first cases, because his band, the Gang of Four, were touring in Wuhan, and he came back, had a chest infection, and literally did not survive it, unfortunately.
Fuck.
That was pretty sad. He had this incredible studio in his basement of this Charing Cross apartment that was 5 stories, all Chili Peppers money, right? He did the first record of Chili Peppers, had points on it, and he never had to work again.
Wow.
But we arrived in London and we just heard Peach's first record. And we're like, listen to this, man. Can we make a record like this? And of course, it just turned out nothing. Like you cannot hear any influence of that record at all. But I think I
was about to politely be like, oh, yeah, no, I see that.
No. But I mean, I think we loved that record. That was the only record I remember listening to at that exact time and going, wow. But I think perhaps we'd listened to it a little bit too late to be influenced by it musically. A lot of that stuff was just me really listening to electronic music that I'd been shown by, I think, Martin. Martin had got me into The Prodigy, he'd got me into Dre, he'd got me into hip-hop in general, really, which is his great kind of skill. He was really into modern technology and using the latest gear and listening to a wide variety of electronic music, whereas I was kind of open to it. And I think Basement Jaxx had hit around that time or maybe a little earlier, and I remember listening to that quite a lot and wanting to do something more different.
That is actually one I really hear now that you mention it and hadn't made that connection before. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Another one of my favorite records from you guys is Art. I think that was a pretty tumultuous time for you guys as well, though.
Yes, it was.
What was it like writing those songs? Can you look back on that work fondly? And also, side question, who comes up with the idea to essentially turn the Are You Being Served theme song into a house track?
Well, that was one of mine.
I love it. That's one of my favorites.
I like that show. I thought that track is like really cool. Like the original track.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah. I mean, it's funny, right? Because I always say our sound really comes from just being, too naive to do it properly. Like you ape the people you respect as musicians. Like I love all these incredible musicians that are geniuses like Prince and David Bowie and stuff like that. You want to try and emulate some of that stuff, especially when you start out, and you just fail. You end up failing. You end up with your sound. The band, the three members, kind of coming in this really disparate way and trying to emulate their heroes and coming up this weird mishmash mess of a thing that is your band. Then, but yeah, that record was difficult to do because of the relationships they had come to a head. Was very, very annoyed with the rest of us. He didn't like the power dynamic that was occurring. I think a lot of drummers who don't write melodies, be specific, often find themselves in that, or lyrics. They find themselves in that situation where the power dynamic is against them. And if there's also personality differences, then yeah, things will eventually get completely out of whack. And that was kind of happening over the art period, and we were recording it in a place where none of us really had the motivation to work with any real strong ethic, because it was next to a beautiful beach in Byron Bay at Watergoes Beach. So we were kind of swimming more than we were actually working most of the time. And Martin was only semi-committed at best. He would turn up occasionally and play. And we were doing a lot of like stuff with electronic
Yes.
samples and stuff like that, and
I
taking
read
the band into that direction.
I read that Martin would turn up and record a verse and a chorus, and then he'd actually just be out of the studio when you went down to go check on him in the. Is this true? And then you ended up just having to loop sections. Was re
I don't know. I don't know. I just remember him not being into most of the ideas we put
Okay.
forward and just
Okay.
not being attached. He did not want to be attached to it. And I think, things were going on in his life. It was obviously on that tour, the art tour, is when we got up on stage in Perth and waited for him to arrive, and he just never did, in front of like 1,500 kids. So there was things going on in his life that we didn't know about.
Hmm.
We weren't communicating well. We were kind of pissed off with each other. Yeah, like I said, things had come to a head and started around the recording of that record. He wasn't happy with the direction. He wasn't happy with the way he was being treated or the way that we were communicating with him. Perhaps we were being a lot more controlling. I don't know. It's quite possible that our egos had reached a point where we just wanted to control our music more. And money also changes things. When you start making money and you start thinking about, your contributions and what, you should be allocated and all that stuff, it's a mind fuck. And, something that everyone has to go through and make their own decisions about. But yeah, that was a difficult record for those reasons.
How do you feel about it as a body of work, separating it from all of those moments?
It's not my favorite record, definitely. My favorite records are really the first couple and Super Happy Fun Times. I like that record. And I also like the last record we did in Beta. All of the rest of them, I'm very like, whatever. Not really interested in them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
This is a purely a question for me. Do you know what the synth you used for the song Ghost is? On the intro is. So
God, I
it's
couldn't tell
very
you.
sick sound.
I can't remember.
Okay.
That's on art, isn't it?
It is, yes. Second track, I think.
It may have been I had a rack mounted, Novation. That's all over that A Lonely Guy song, but it was a rack mounted blue thing, Novation,
Okay.
Supernova or something like, or Nova. But I'm not sure whether Ben would have used that one. I don't know. He might have used something else. It's his song, so you'd have to ask him.
Okay. I got the wrong guy on the line.
Yeah, apparently.
But what the synthesizers, right? So they really come in earnest, I think, on Unit. I mean, there's a little bit of it on the first album. Where is that coming from? Were you guys listening to new music, or was it more just like, well, I've loved synth pop or I've loved 80s new wave music for so long, maybe we can actually do this now? Like, was it an influence with the early EPs, or was it a new introduction to you and that changed your sound, do you think, around then?
We didn't really know what we wanted to do at the first outset. We just wanted to get away from our fusion metal kind of overplaying thing. So Simplify was the first directive. And then a direction that led us towards pop music happened. And then we looked back at what we were listening to in the 80s and realized that it was all pop music. Devo, all the great like artists we love were just synth pop. So we kind of thought, let's give it a go, Once again, looking at your heroes going, I could do that. And then like just completely fucking it up. But thanks to Martin and his interest in new gear, he was encouraging in that regard. And I remember buying a Nord lead, one of the smaller ones, the really tiny ones with the.
I have the original keyboard one there, the first one.
Oh, do you really? I have not. I sold mine ages ago, and I kind of regret it in a way. So that's all over the Unit record, that Nord lead.
Okay.
And we were using samplers as well, like S3000s, S2000s, stuff like that. Largely thanks to Martin's like encouragement on that. And I think the whole of Polyester Girl is just a 303, like an MC 303, like one of those really shitty ones.
I have the 505 up there.
Right. Well, with the one that came before that one,
yes,
it was that. Yeah. So there was just this
literally the whole track is just on that, is it?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's the whole track, and it was a joke. Like it was just like, let's just see what I can get out of this. Go on this shitty line, which is just, and then sing over it, and that was it. And ironically, that's the whole Peaches record is just that machine. I think it's a 505. The whole thing is just that and her, which is pretty ironic. Right.
That's crazy. It's funny, that song, when Polyester Girl came out, I remember it got a lot of airplay on Triple J and would come on the radio. I was a young kid at the time, and my mum would get the shits with it because I don't think she understood it was an ironic song. She was like, this is disgusting. Like, no, Mum,
it's a common habit.
It's ironic.
And you knew. How old were you at the time?
I can't remember. Actually, I don't like to age myself, so.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
I was just coming out of the womb. I don't know how much time we've got. I did want to touch on a couple of other things.
We got another 15 at least. That's cool.
Really?
Oh,
okay,
actually,
cool.
No, I think I have to go in a few minutes. Sorry, 12, 15.
What's going on
That's
right
okay.
now? What modern music are you listening to at the moment? Is this are you listening to modern stuff, or is it
I do
just...
listen to a lot of modern stuff, actually. I'm not one of these people that listens to a lot of old records.
Mhm.
Um, only the latest old record I bought that actually my partner and my girlfriend bought for me, it was a Japanese ambient record that I loved in the late 90s called Sakura by Susumu Yokota. It's like an ambient record. It's got like
Mhm.
beautiful. They did a re-release, couldn't get it for ages, and I really wanted it on vinyl, so I got this double record version of that. So I listen to that occasionally. I really love it. At the moment, I really like. I hate to say it, but I really like Fred again.
Mhm. Why do you hate to say that?
I don't know. I really don't know what the vibe is on him, to be honest. I just like his music and I like his approach to it. And the fact that he's
Mm.
got this USB thing that just changes every month, kind of, it's awesome. Like, and
Is that what
the
he's doing
mixing,
with? Is this like an album? Is it that keeps
it's an
like
album that
tracks coming
alters.
in and out?
Yeah,
Cool. I
in
didn't
and
realize
out,
that.
and it's never the same on streaming platforms. You've got to kind of keep up with the latest one. It just stops working after a while, and you've got to go find them again. It's a
That
really
is
cool
cool.
idea,
Yeah.
and I do like his. I like his mixing sensibility, and I do like his approach to electronic music and rap music in particular. I like Tyler's new record a lot, Tap the Glass. I thought that was one of his best records, and he did that all recording on the road apparently. And I
Right.
don't know where it was mixed, but I dig it. I really like him as an artist. I think he's definitely pushed the genre to a different level. There's a couple of cool punk bands I've found over the last few years as well that I quite like. I really like the Bad Nerves, which is a British kind of punk pop band. I really like their records. And I love Dead Pioneers just because they're a great indigenous led group from the States. They got a great song called Bad Indian, which is really cool. He's kind of like an incredible activist, indigenous activist, really cool guy. And there's been some great indigenous rap groups that I've listened to and gone to see, like Barker, and they're all coming up. They're all becoming huge.
Mm.
So yeah, I do listen to a lot of like reasonably modern music. I'm sure there's thousands of groups that I would never have heard of that are doing really great now.
Of course.
But yeah, that's just the way it is now, right?
And what was it back in 93?
93 would have been Aphex Twin. Or maybe a little bit later than 93, actually. Pusher, Aphex Twin, touring with the Boredoms was incredible. Great noise, Japanese noise bands, stuff like that. And a Prodigy, Basement Jaxx, Dr. Dre's Chronic record. The first rap record I listened to was still great. The America's Most Wanted by Ice Cube, still my favorite record. And really funny that all my indie buddies were listening to Public Enemy. It's all about Public Enemy. You listen to America's Most Wanted, it is way more aggressive, way more political than any Public Enemy record. It's so awesome.
Right.
And I still think it's a great
I don't
record.
actually know it. Ice Cube's a huge hole in my musical.
Yeah, his early
knowledge.
records straight out of after NWA are so good.
Yeah,
really
sick.
good.
I wanted to talk a little bit more about two things if I've got time, really quickly.
Let's do another 5.
Yeah, cool.
Well, another few at least. I should get onto this one, but it's okay. I can wait for a little
while. Where is your head at these days with regard to some of the lyrics you wrote back in the late 90s? Because I think that like looking at the subtext or even just text of some of your lyrics back then, has your stance on any of that stuff changed? Do you look back on it as an older person now and you sort of, what was I really saying there? Or do you still stand by all those convictions?
So I think there was an honesty there that's kind of rung true and held, which is great. If you're really true to yourself and I think I was, maybe not all the time, but I certainly think there's weaker songs, obviously, and there's songs that I think when you get a little bit of success, you start overthinking things. And I think I'm still doing that to a certain degree. I don't take as many risks arrangement-wise and, playing-wise that I used to. But I think the messages that I had there, some of them are silly, but they're silly in a fun way and they're not embarrassing to me, which is great. There's a couple of songs that I wouldn't really want to play anymore, like Freshman, stuff like that. They're just a little bit hollow and don't really ring true. There are some songs that I wish I'd done differently. I remember I think Paul played I Like Repetitive Music on Art to Peaches, and she's like, yeah, it's a great idea, but why all the lyrics? Why not just make it really simple and just have it repeating the same thing? And I'm like, yeah, I should have done that in hindsight, but I wasn't, I was overthinking it or whatever. But yeah, I think that some of the lyrics are still really funny and really stupid and clever in their own way. And I still try and take that approach to writing lyrics now. And all of the political stuff is still the same. Nothing's changed.
No, I think you're right.
Crazier, there. Right?
Yes.
It's just a horror story at the moment. Like it's like a freaking horror movie overseas.
It's awful.
And here as well. It's nuts. It's totally nuts. And yeah, I think you should be able to say whatever you want, and you should be able to express yourself the way you want to express yourself. And I'm willing to have a conversation. I've always had this stance that if anyone has anything to say about what I'm trying to say, and they want to understand it more, I'm willing to talk to you about it. They don't agree with me, talk to me. Let's find our commonalities is the important thing. I don't want to have an argument with someone, even if they're far right. I want to know what we have in common and try and work out and try and understand them, because understanding is that's love. Understanding is love. And the world needs more of that, right? That's what is missing.
Totally. Yeah.
With every complex issue you have. There's this lack of transparency, lack of understanding because of that reason. And obviously human nature, greed, temptation, all that stuff comes into play. But talking and finding commonality is what I've always been about. And I feel like that is represented in the bands now, and it always has been.
I love that.
Well, isn't that a lovely way to end the podcast? I want to say thanks again to Quan for joining me and for being so patient with me. All of the many questions. I had so many more. I had so much more I wanted to go into with him. But alas, he's a busy man. And so am I. Yeah, fuck him. Maybe I'm more busy than him. Fuck you, Quan. All right, bye.